Yeah, so should I go ahead?
Yeah, let's do that. It's
Yeah.
recording. We're on it. Let's go.
Okie dokie. So, hi everybody. I am sorry that I am not there in person today, and I hope that the technology hangs on for us for the whole time of this presentation. My name is Shilpa Bilimoria. Some of you may know me. I can't see you, so I don't know. I don't know who's looking at me, but I'm sure that I recognize a lot of faces in the audience. So a big hello from me, a big happy birthday, 20 years to Little Hands. As you know, I am one of the long-standing members of the team at Little Hands. And I am so happy to be speaking today. So I'm going to take you through a little bit of my journey as a sustainable fashion designer, because alongside being a teacher with Little Hands, for the whole time, I've been developing and honing my brand, House of Bilimoria. So I'm just going to put a presentation up. It's a brief presentation that takes you through a little bit of my journey and where we are now, and a little bit about our kind of processes of sustainability and our loop, basically our fashion loop. So I'm going to just share the screen now. If this doesn't work, please let me know, Ridi.
No, it's good. It's good.
The
full screen.
There we go. Is that good? Can we see that?
Excellent. I am just trying to make this bigger.
Oh. Okay. Yeah. So as I said, my name is Shilpa Bilimoria. This is me in my studio. I brought myself into my studio today. I am isolated on my own here, so this is all good. And my brand, House of Bilimoria, was established in 2008. Very, very close to the same time, I started as one of the members of the team of Little Hands. So my brand was in synergy with the same time I became one of the Little Hands team. So it grew at the same time as Little Hands grew. My children grew at the same time that Little Hands grew. I have so much fondness for the years gone by and how the two kind of supported one another along the way, and how the team supported me along the way. So it's been quite a journey. Established in 2008. So I launched my label in 2008 in London Fashion Week at the Museum of London. I had a runway collection there, and it was all sourced from fabric that was made in Calcutta, that was all fair trade, fair wages, even down to the buttons, where I handmade the buttons. And that was where I began. I began looking at the whole picture all the way back then in 2008. And that's something that we still look at now, but in a very different process and way, which I will talk through shortly. Within these years, though, what I've also had is a production business. So I was creating for small London designers, as well as a few bigger brands as well. They'd come to us and we would create ethically, with all the right price points, all the right working conditions and things here in the UK, whereby they needed smaller minimums and things like that. So people came to me for kind of pattern development and making small runs as well. So that's a few different things that we have done. We now have a women's wear, children's wear, we do men's wear as well. So we like to call ourselves a family brand. House of Bilimoria is a family brand, which is built on the heritage of my ancestors. My grandfathers were tailors, and all my ancestry, as far back as I can look at the moment, they were all involved in some sort of craft-based, manufacturing-based business, and that was how they created their livelihood. So I've taken a little bit of a leaf out of my grandparents' book, not my parents' book, because they're accountants, and I went far away from being an accountant. Although with the business, I do need to watch my business accounts, which, yeah, is part of the journey as well. So we now go on to just a little bit about our ethos. So our ethos is embedded with sustainability. As I mentioned, when I began, we looked at every touch point of the supply chain, which was pretty much crippling back then. And we've now come to a place where we've got a much more congruent way of creating the items that we create without kind of crippling our creative, financial, and kind of the processes around that, which then allow us to be really creative. So sustainability, we use vintage, heirloom, and secondhand materials, saving them from landfill, particularly South Asian materials. So we have saris, we've got salwar kameez, we've got lengas that have these wonderful opulent embroideries and beautiful, beautiful prints on them. There is a lot of trend-based wear, of course, everywhere we go in the world. And something that the South Asian community usually don't do is wear their things, wear their very elaborate pieces over and over again. So usually these things will be worn once and then packed away and kept in the cupboard for a really, really long time, until then, like, people don't want it anymore because it's not in fashion. The trends move really, really quickly. And then, yeah, they're destined to landfill then, because we see also the younger generation are not wearing as many of these textiles or saris or traditional wear as they used to. Our ethics. So our ethics, all of our production is done by our team in-house, which is here, and home-based, as we've had to work during the pandemic with living London wages. I know every member of my team. I train them myself. So this is one thing that has always been very, very important to me. I had family members say to me when I went into what I was doing, because it skipped a generation. So my parents' generation didn't do this work. And it was because they saw their parents having to work hours that were perhaps not sustainable, work really, really, really hard. And although they loved what they did, it was not easy work. And I had once someone say to me that, well, if this was going to make any money, your grandfather would have had us do it, and he didn't. So you've gone down the wrong path. And that really got me, because I love, love, love textiles. I love making and I love what I do. And it became my mission then to show people that we can do what we love, and ethics can be a big part of that, and people can value that. So I love that I have been a part of Little Hands team, where we can also educate the next generation and share this with them, and what it takes to make clothes and what it takes to create these wonderful pieces. And that's where we just go into community. I love to do workshops. I love to teach in the wider community here within Wembley, where we're based. I am quite like a member of the community and the council, and we do a lot of kind of community events, and I'll speak at the events. So that's something that I'm very, very passionate about, is also sharing those skills and sharing my journey and that with the wider community, because yeah, that is where our vision is going to carry on and carry forward, is with the young people. So those are our core values. As I mentioned, our journey. So it has gone through so many different evolutions with what happened in my life at the same time, all the different things I used to do for work. I'm sure that some of the team there will recognize some of the looks here and things. So this is a mood board that I made with every single show, every single photo shoot to date, and when I'd done this mood board. And what I love here is that there was always that synergy with that ethos that we were built upon was present along the whole way. Had it, even though, let's say that there were things that I had to do for kind of work, or that I had to do to sustain kind of the business running, like the production I mentioned, we were always really creative and always using, fabrics that we sourced and found from places that we could either save from landfill, or that we were supporting fair trade communities. So that's just a little mood board that takes you through our journey. My children are inside that picture there. Those are my two girls. That's Shani, who also grew up with Little Hands, and she's now 14, and my youngest is a 6-year-old that's there, and they're also very much into making as well. What you see here is a lot of the pieces are made from upcycled saris. There are pieces that are made from end of line, which would have gone to landfill had they not have been used or bought by new designers and things, using them in smaller ways. Where we are now, post-lockdown, we've discovered many things, and lockdown had us stop, I think had a lot of the fashion industry stop in its tracks and look at a lot of the inherent processes that were completely unsustainable. And a lot with what we did was sustainable. So we have survived through lockdown, thankfully. And what lockdown allowed us to do was create a new collection, which is called Landed. I feel like we've gone through all of the last years honing who we are, and where we really sit is with upcycling. So luxury upcycling and for the love of a shirt. So we now have niched down our product range where we do shirts, and we do a few home pieces, which are our cushions, our scarves, and just a few small accessories, and our children's wear. And our messaging has become a big deal in what we do. So alongside having the product and making these items, we have a lot of storytelling that comes along with it. And that's something I'm really passionate about and love to do, because it's building the story with the items that we wear. And I'm sure that everyone can probably sit and remember if I said to you that remember like a shirt. Is there a shirt in the journey of your life that you remember, or somebody wearing a shirt that has you just think of them very, very fondly? Or if there's a shirt that you would wear that was somebody's, I'm sure that everybody has a story. And that's why I love this garment, the shirt that transcends cultures, that transcends countries, transcends genders, and can be worn by everyone. So this is where we've kind of niched down into, and to make your wardrobe trans-seasonal, as well as being a classic item that you can wear for a long, long time. So that's where we are post-lockdown. And we also look at closing the loop. So one thing to look at and perhaps question is where brands and the people that you buy from, do they close their loop? So what we do is we have a reincarnation program. So once our products are finished with, we say to our customers, bring them back to us and we're going to upcycle them again. So we therefore close our own loop. What we do not want is our items get disposed of without us having the final kind of say so of where that goes. So with the reincarnation program, people bring things back and they get 30% off their next item. And then we take care of that piece. We have already, which is nice because this went into play in 2017. And now we've just started having items come back to us, which is great because we can also then look at sort of problem solving within that and see that if an item has come back and the wear and tear on that item is immense, we can look at what that was. I had a customer come back to me with an item that it was all about the washing. The wash care was not followed. There was awful amounts of softener put into the washes, and I could feel that on the fabric, and the fabric had literally deteriorated in the washing machine. And that also helped me to help her to look at her washing up powder, powder or liquid. And I helped her to then choose things that she could then wash with in the future with the new items that she had. So that then closes the loop in lots of ways. So it's something to look at is the life cycle of the products that we have and we use on a day-to-day basis. Our customer journey. So this also is something important, and where we have landed here and now we have a really congruent packaging process. All of our packaging is made from recycled materials that you can then still are biodegradable or recyclable as well. And then our labels is our newest edition, which have a QR code. So when you scan that QR code, it takes you right to the aftercare page on our website, and also will help people to participate in the reincarnation program. So what we like is that once people buy an item for us or have a bespoke item made by us, the journey doesn't end there. We like to say that we're kind of like the hairdresser. You come back to us over and over and over again, because it's a journey and it's a process, and we stay with you during that time, and we can make tweaks to the items, we can alter them, or then reincarnate them when the time comes. So that's a little bit about our customer journey now. After all these years, the ups and the downs, and going through all these processes, we've found that using secondhand materials, using vintage heirloom materials that mean something to people, or just that they're getting rid of, and we get a lot of donations where they don't want their items to go to landfill, and we will then upcycle them, and closing this loop in this manner with all the aftercare and all of that storytelling and detail is where we sit as a sustainable brand. These are our main touch points: the ethics, the materials being safe from landfill, and closing the customer loop, customer journey on that. And that is a little bit in a snapshot about the label. And I know Ridi has some questions, so we're going to do a bit of a Q&A. I would love questions from the audience. If there's things I've spoke about you'd want to know more about, please join in with questions. Absolutely happy to answer pretty much anything.
That was so inspiring. It's just going to be looking a bit weird because I'm talking to you on a laptop and then everyone's looking at the presentation.
Fine, I can't see anyone, but I'm waving. Hi, everybody.
No, that was very inspiring in a nutshell, but it's amazing how every process and every step of like the product that you're developing is very much thought of like the bigger story. Like it's not just a shirt, that there's a thought process on the selection of the fabric, the design, and then the aftercare and what will happen after that. And that's beautiful. I think that's something like a lot of like how the fashion system will have to incorporate that into their business plans, really. But yeah, no. Does anyone have any questions before I kind of go into asking my questions in the interview? Well, I'll just start off and then we'll see how people get through. But we'll start with something easy. So what's your main source of inspiration? Like, do you have a muse? Like your culture seems like it's very much infused through your design process, but is your inspiration something that kind of dips through time, or do you have like a main source that kind of sticks to the core of like since 2008 up to now, like, and the future?
Yes, definitely. I think my mum plays a big role in that kind of muse side. I think she's probably amused now with how much that happens. But it is that journey that she's traveled on that is really, really inspiring for me. I was born in Canada. I was born in Vancouver, and we moved over to London, well, in Kent in 1998, and I've lived here ever since. My background is I'm North Indian, I'm Gujarati, and I have not lived in India. I have traveled. I've been there about three times, I think. And that is my connection there. I have family there. We've been a few times, but besides that, everything that I know of is what I've learned over here. My mum was born in Kenya, in Kisumu, in Africa, East Africa, and my dad was born in Mumbai. And so it's that journey, it's that longing for and learning about that journey that really inspires me. I think this is what the running chord is throughout what I do, is that there is this inspiration from my ancestry that I find fascinating. And even not from my own, I find ancestry, and I find where we have been and the journey of textiles so fascinating.
I literally resonate with literally everything that you just said. We share a very similar background. Like, I'm Gujarati as well, never lived in India. My parents are from Mozambique in Africa. I was born in Portugal, but still feel very much connected to my culture, being Indian, and then like have a huge passion and love Indian textiles. Like, it's beautiful. There's so much story into it and so much that can be done. So this is the first time me and Shilpa actually having a conversation. This is something we wanted to do pre-lockdown. So this is like a live thing that we would have probably gone out for coffee or something and talked about.
It's more like of a conversation with.
I did not know half of this. I am, like I think as an aspiring designer, let's say that like my cultures and the history that my family's gone through is hugely like a huge inspiration as well. And it's just all the little bits and pieces and how do you put that together, and that makes it such a beautiful composition, I guess, because it's uniquely yours, and it's how you share that story to the world and through your designs and the product that you make. But
absolutely. Wow. There we go, we're learning already.
So you've mentioned about where your materials are sourced from, so you very much consider where you're getting your materials from, the fabrics, where the fabric's coming from. So like, for example, the saris or the lehengas, and so how do you actually get those? Like, is it like from the community, like from family and friends, or do you go, is there specific places where you you contact them and they like send it to you for you to work on?
Yeah, a majority of the pieces that we have and what I have here are pieces that people have donated. There are quite a few from our own wardrobes now, but a lot of them have been donated. So what usually happens, which is a lot that's also embedded in our stories, that people often come to us after they lose a loved one and they're clearing out their belongings, and it's something I take a lot of honor in. Like, I'm very honored that people want to come to us, but what it is they want to find a home for those things that they know that they're not just skipping them or throwing them away. So the majority of the stuff, I would say, is from people that are clearing out their wardrobes, and then a huge amount is from people clearing out and kind of, gathering the belongings of their loved ones and making sure that they go to a home where, they don't just get thrown away.
And what I find beautiful about sari, so part of like my like business idea is like a sari is like so many widths, like 7 yards or something. And if there's a stain or a little tear, like no one will carry on wearing it because it's not right. But there's so much other fabric that could be used into creating something else and something beautiful. And it's just, how do you like carry that fabric on into a second journey or a third journey of its lifetime? So sustainability plays a huge part of your business as well. It's any business, it's really difficult to be 100% sustainable. And like Ashley this morning mentioned, what is sustainability? So it's like, what kind of sustainable attributes would you say are like the core and key to your brand?
It's funny that you say that, and I think me and Astrid have spoken about this along the way.
It's here listening.
In 2008, when I started the label, there was no such thing called like sustainable fashion. I mean, there was not sustainable like it's a buzzword now. Like, it's a buzzword. It's a term that has been developed, and
it's almost like greenwashing. It's a greenwashed word, basically.
Absolutely. When I started, Google was not what it is now. In 2008, I was searching for fair trade. So fair trade was the word that I was using when I was typing things in. Ethical, even ethical, to the point like ethical production and stuff, that was even hard. There was the Ethical Fashion Forum that now has changed hands and become several. I think it might be the Common Objective.
Yes,
so that was kind of just in its early days at the time that I was starting that label. So it was really small, like there wasn't much around. But for me, what it was is that fair trade. It was that the people that worked in the factories, people that were making the fabrics, weaving the fabrics, picking the cotton, and that people were treated fairly. That was the thing. It was fairness. That was our thing, and to this day, that's what it is now, is that fairness. And if we can, then I'll have secondhand. Like that is kind of the compromise there. Then we go secondhand. But my main thing is that for the people, like watching the people, the hands, the makers, the craftspeople that are creating these pieces.
Yeah, I think we're so used to seeing fast fashion and just seeing this item of clothing on the rail or online, And I feel people feel so detached now to the whole like process of making. So I like my main job is I'm a product developer, so I very much in the middle of the supply chain making clothes, and it's like how can I come in and adapt that business plan to be and work with the suppliers and the mills to, okay, we need to start thinking sustainable, and what's the sustainable options. And it's like trying to work with the whole supply chain as well, and how can you educate one another to take more of a conscious step forward as well. But
like
yeah,
what you're saying. So, and as a brand, what we do, I talk a lot about sustaining your identity and heritage. Like you'll see in a lot of the work that I do, when I mention sustainability, I talk about the planet, yes, and the environment and people, but I talk about sustaining oneself before anything. And I think if we go down to that micro level completely and you look at sustaining yourself and how you're impacting things on a day-to-day basis, that is where sustainability begins. And
cool.
we need to sustain ourselves. This is the thing. Now, if I mean, your purchasing habits are so giant, you're not actually sustaining yourself in that. You're sustaining something else, which is a big corporation, actually, right? So it's looking at all of those processes and things that growing up in a Indian household, there was a lot of practices that were inherently sustainable, like from a very young age. I mean, I only know how many yogurt, like empty yogurt pots and stuff are underneath the sink. And like, I think me and my other half now, we have a bit of a debate about that. Cause I'm like, no, you hang on to all this stuff. And he's like, no, you get rid of it. And I'm like, no, that's not sustainable. But I wouldn't have called it sustainable. It was just that, oh, this is going to come in handy one day. We're going to hang on to this thing. And I think that culturally, that's something that has always come with. But now when I look at sustaining oneself, and that's in all avenues of life. And I think that if people come into touch with themselves in that way, when you then touch a product, you will then wonder where that thing comes from, and that if you are that in touch with yourself, that you've sustained yourself, you'd only want that for the others in the world.
I kind of want to touch on made to order. I don't think a lot of people are aware of the term made to order. And I think it's very key. And I noticed that this is something that you do. And I think this is kind of the way forward in how we consume and purchase. So would it be okay to just give a quick snapshot of what made to order is?
Yes. So the journey just on my website, if you go on my website, you'll see you can click and buy anything that's on there. But what it does say in every product description is that your item will arrive with you between it will only be sent out between 5 to 10 working days after your purchase. Right now, our sales are in a way that we can accommodate that short a lead time. But basically what it does mean is that your item is only made when you buy it. So there's no excess of stock that's produced prior to somebody buying that item. So if you imagine the supply chains and producing 10,000 of an item before it's even sold, and then you've got a whole marketing spiel that goes on to sell that 10,000, 100,000 items. And then if it doesn't sell, you have these ridiculous, crazy sales that then where you get products for that amount, but it's only because that was such a huge amount produced in the first place. So it kind of also eliminates that part of that process where made to order means that someone wants it.
No, and I think most brands do end up buying huge units. It's because of money. It's cheaper to buy thousands of units than buying 300 units, which will get used up and bought quickly. But it's all like the margins and the targets that, businesses have, the more profit they can get. But it's just like this whole stash of clothing or product that will just sit on the side, and then it's like, what do you do with it? We are kind of starting to like hit our time limit, but if we can close on what advice would you give to young creatives or people wanting to start their own design business or businesses, or aspiring creatives, as seeing your journey has been so inspiring and how you've evolved through time as well? Is there any words of wisdom?
Definitely. So I think if you're a budding designer and you want a brand of your own, a label of your own, keep working on it. alongside whatever that you're doing. So I think having other work and another job, something that complements what you do, is so helpful, because what you don't want to be is crippled by the fact, especially if you're looking, at these sustainable aspects. You need a cash flow, you need that to develop a brand, you need that to develop a business, and you want all that. So what you want to do is work that alongside something. Going in gung-ho before you have kind of that foundation can be very crippling, and what it can lead you to do is look in a very commercial manner, and that's not going to help your vision creatively. So I think what a job or some work experience that complements what you do does is gives you that creative license to be able to be creative as you wish, and stick to your core values. Like I'd mentioned earlier, stick to those core values without having to, scramble for something very commercial because you need to pay the bills. Yeah. And then another thing is get as much work experience as you can. I think that there is so much to be valued and learned from people that have learned these skills. And there's always things that you discover, especially the making side and that creative side, that they're all skills that are being cross-transferred and passed on. You can't learn all of those within, one institution or one degree or one course. I think that experience comes along the way. Be hands-on, try different things, until you try something, don't knock it. Yes. And that, yeah.
Amazing. So does anyone else have any further questions?
I've got a comment, but is it maybe someone else could go first? Hands up. Okay. I don't want to.
No, you can go for it.
Just very briefly, thinking of the term scaling up, there's quite a lot of NGOs working in India that are more refocusing now on just, rather than just giving, they're looking at, giving tools and, buying animals so that people can be self-sustainable. And I could see your concept, if you were working with an NGO, where it would work very well, where people, would be actually making things and possibly selling in the shops here. There are Oxfam is a model for that, where they've been doing that and using their shops where they have a sort of sections on fair trade, but and things that are made, So it could be something for the medium to longer term, where I know you're involved with your business now, but it's very inspiring to see what you're doing and how it could actually be an international thing. And the NGOs have got the money and the collateral and the determination to do that sort of thing. But you've got the vision and the innovation which can actually partner with them. And if you bring
absolutely.
Together, I know it's theoretical, but
it's not theoretical at all, actually, because you've kind of taken the words, I guess, out of my mouth. We've gone back to basically the first NGO that we worked with in 2008 to get the fair trade block print, gone back to them. And we're actually in talks of having some things, buying some work from their artisans there. So they're called Craft Resource Center, and they're based in Calcutta. And we're going to be having some materials coming from them. So also what I'm doing is we're looking at their dead stock, because they have also created stock, but this was all created fair trade, but it was in the site that it would sell. So I said to Indra, who is the lovely, lovely man at Craft Resource Center, that show me what's sitting in your warehouse that's not selling. Show me that fabric and show me what you've got sitting there that you wish would just shift, and we will buy that material and keep that relationship going. So that's been a really lovely full circle, that we've gone back to that company from 2008, and we're looking at developing a few ranges with them. So that's Craft Resource Center, CRC, in Kolkata.
Amazing. Right.
Thank you for that comment as well.
Upscaling the innovation from House of Bilimoria constantly at Regiments. I'm having Shilpa as one of our longest-standing teachers. It's in its own way an upscaling by providing young people with the skills and the knowledge she has built up in so many years and is sharing with our students.
Yes, I think I caught most of that. Yes, exactly.
Right, I think we'll have to wrap this up now because we've got to prepare for the next Paris presentation. But it's been lovely having a snapshot. I feel like there's a lot that we can still carry on talking about and learn from each other.
I can see someone. It's been really a little bit abstract.
Sorry, it's just been me.
I know there's an audience there and I'm trying to imagine an imaginary audience, but here's me saying thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm sorry that I couldn't be there in person.
I'll do like a quick
hi everybody.
Wait, sorry, let me just like take it, unplug it so it's not. Okay, so we've had
hi. Thank you for watching and thank you for being here. Oh, thanks for having me, and yes, enjoy the rest of the day, and yeah, see you soon, hopefully.
See you soon. Thank you so much. Bye.